that the contract would have had, and would have had some provision in it that said, look, if any of you get involved in any kind of alleged law breaking or speeding or whatever it might be, or allegations of this or that or the other thing, during the term of this contract, we, the council, have got the right to suspend it so that you know exactly beforehand what the rules are going to be and what's going to happen if you blot your copybook, because part of the object of this, and I think it's a good idea, is to help these guys to stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
And if it works, it's good stuff. But as long as everyone is on the same, song sheet, but if that's not the case, and if the council have gone off sort of half-cocked and said, oh, well, because you've been charged, we're going to take away, suspend the contract, I don't think that's fair.
There's also been an internal investigation, whatever that has involved, and we aren't privy to the conclusions reached by the investigation, but they seem to have prompted the change of mind. But you think there's a logicality in the change of mind. If you're going to wait for a court process, you wait for a court process.
Yeah.
Very good. Do you agree with that, Patrick?
Yeah, it's called natural justice.
Okay. Now, the Black Caps, in the first test against Australia, put into bat on a greenish track. And they didn't do that well, did they? 183 all out. But in fact, they may have done all right in the end, because they're... How many wickets Australia down? Still 2? I don't know. I haven't checked. But anyway, Brendan McCullum has been talking about what he'll miss when he calls it quits. And it seems that it doesn't really matter who wins the games. He says to be able to sit around and see a group of guys who've been able to achieve something over 5 days, sitting around with smiles on their faces and a bit of music going, a beer in one hand, being able to look back on the hard work and what's been achieved. That's what I got into the game for, and that is going to be my last memory of the game as well. That's quite interesting, isn't it? That's what he'll miss.
Yeah, I think I know why Catherine Ryan had the day off today. It's a lovely day in Wellington here.
Ah, you reckon she's down at the Basin Reserve?
That's my guess.
There's a lot in there what he said about the joy of endeavour, just for endeavour,
yeah.
not winning, losing, not being, not.
I mean,
glory.
this is what sport's about, and I think it brings down to reality. The hoo-ha there was the other day of whether some Australian was out or whether the TV man got it right, wrong, or indifferent, blah blah blah, and the sledging and stuff. I mean, this guy's talking about sportsmanship, the game, and playing a game with your mates, with other people in the team. I mean, that's what it's supposed to be about. Good on him. I mean, we talk a lot about sort of humility and all that sort of stuff, but this is what it's all about. This is grassroots stuff.
Is there a larger message, without wanting to sound too profound about this, is there a larger message for us? I mean, no one will in the end remember his batting stats or how much money he made, and he knows that, doesn't he? And he's, in a way, this is a stoic kind of attitude. It's enjoying the moment and valuing what's really good and what's going on inside, rather than measuring it by externals.
Well, that's exactly right.
Thank you for allowing me to form my own conclusion there. Now, somebody says, Patrick, I have 4 shopping trundlers and none is tartan. That is so last millennium, says Wendy. Did you talk about the colour? Did I miss that?
I think in the old days they were all tartan. Nowadays you can get them in animal prints, probably in black leather too, in grey lin. As I say, I think you'll be seeing them all over town from now on.
Somebody says, Meg says, I call mine my trolley. And as Patrick says, I do walk with it lots. But what is the official name for these little runabouts?
Used to be called the Nana trolley. I think we're now calling it the hipster trolley.
The hipster trolley, thank you. And people take them, you mentioned markets, so it's not obviously just supermarkets, they just use them for shopping generally.
Farmers market, perfect place for it.
We sound so out of touch on this, don't we? But no, you'll
find a lot of them. There's a lot of them in the South Island.
You probably get a retro one there, Jock.
Jock, I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying the South Island. Thank you for being on with us. We look forward to you coming back on soon.
Pleasure, Jim.
Patrick Morgan, thank you for being on the panel. You come back soon too.
Thank you, guys.
Have a nice weekend, everybody. We're back Monday. Checkpoint following with John Campbell.
Kia ora everyone, welcome to Checkpoint with John Campbell on RNZ National. Tonight, a 5-year-old taken from the street in Palmerston North. AFCO's Wairoa workers have another win in the employment court, but AFCO's Rangi Uru workers who took Waitangi Monday off may face the sack. Global share markets plunge and the bizarre lucky dip of petrol prices. All that and much more in the next 90 minutes. But first, here's Katrina Batten with RNZ News.
Kia ora, good evening. The police have vowed to catch the man who snatched a 5-year-old girl off a Palmerston North street this morning, but admit they have few leads at this stage. Shakina Relai's skipper was on the way to school with her sisters in Shamrock Street when the man pulled her into his car. Kate Gudsell is in Palmerston North.
A member of the public who heard Shakina's sister's call for help alerted the police this morning. About 2.5 hours later, the girl was dropped off in Hind Place, on the other side of the city, where she was found by another member of the public. Inspector Sarah Stewart says the man is not known to Shakina and they have no leads except that he was driving a white sedan. The police are looking at CCTV footage from the area and urging people to come forward if they saw a vehicle matching that description in Shamrock Street or Hind Place this morning. In Palmerston North, Kate Gudsell.
The Police Minister Judith Collins says she'll consider getting tougher on fleeing drivers by allowing their cars to be crushed. The police are under pressure over pursuits that end in people being injured or killed, but are resisting further changes to their own pursuits policy. The government is already considering law changes to increase driver disqualification periods and lower the thresholds for seizing an offender's car. Ms Collins says it's important to take innovative measures to deter drivers from fleeing from the police. She says she'll be meeting the police on Monday to discuss the options available. The High Court has heard the Bank of New Zealand has acted unconscionably in its dealings with the owners of a private Abel Tasman National Park beach, who owes it about $6 million. The beach is currently the subject of a crowdfunding campaign to raise $2 million to buy it and make it into a public area. Here's our court reporter Anne-Marie May.
The bank's lawyer Richard Gordon told the court in Wellington today the case is a straightforward matter of debt recovery and the bank wants to force the sale of properties over which it holds mortgages so the debt can be repaid. However, defence lawyer Jason Sumner said his clients had had a 25-year relationship with the bank and expected conditions would roll over as had happened with previous loans. He said they continue to maintain they were misled by the bank and the case should go to a full trial rather than summary judgment being granted to the bank. Associate Judge Smith reserved his decision. This is Anne-Marie May.
Flames could be seen coming through the roof of a McDonald's restaurant that caught fire north of Wellington this afternoon. Traffic remains heavy near the scene in the Upper Hutt suburb of Silverstream. Kate Pereira Garcia reports.
The fire began just after 2 o'clock and 8 crews have been tackling it. The fire service says everyone in the building was safely evacuated and no one has been injured. It can't confirm whether or not Ferguson Drive is closed, but nearby businesses say traffic is backing up. Train services between Silverstream and Upper Hutt were cancelled for a period. They have since resumed. This is Kate Pereira Garcia.
The Mayor of Christchurch says the behaviour of a councillor involved in the drunken incident fell short of what is expected. Jamie Goff took to social media this morning to apologise for his drunken behaviour at a Maryvale bar on Waitangi Day. He says he's sorry for any offence caused and will seek professional help. The Mayor, Leanne Dalzell, read out a short statement today but refused to take questions on the matter. Mr Goff was stood down last year as chair of the council's event management company after getting drunk at a charity event. The final closing address for defence lawyer Eb Leary has been delivered in Auckland. Mr Leary, whose clients included Terry Clark, also known as Mr Asia, died last Sunday aged 71 and was farewelled at St Mary's Church in Parnell today. Edward Gay reports from the service.
The congregation that included friends, family, judges, lawyers and gang members heard moving tributes from Mr Leary's sister Caroline Main and son James Leary. Miss Main spoke of her brother's colourful life that included being struck off, running a fishing lodge in the far north, and then returning to law 20 years later. A motorcade of patched gang members accompanied the hearse from the churchyard. At St Mary's in Parnell, Edward Gay.
In sport, the New Zealand cricketers have been skittled for 183 on day one of the first test against Australia in Wellington. The bowler Mark Craig top scored with 41 and shared 2 crucial partnerships late in the innings with Corey Anderson and Trent Boult after the Black Caps had slumped to 97 for 7. The Australians then lost both openers cheaply to Tim Southee, but a short time ago had recovered to be 107 for 2 after 25 overs. World golf number 1 Lydia Ko has finished her first round of the New Zealand Open 3 shots off the pace set by Denmark's Nicole Larsen, who leads by 1 stroke. Ko's 3 under par 69, mixing 2 bogeys with 5 birdies, with a long birdie putt on the last hole a highlight.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid start. It was not the best ball striking day. I struggled a little bit with my irons and my 3-wood, but no, it's a pretty solid start, and obviously, it's good to end on a positive note with a birdie.
Lydia Ko. Fellow New Zealand golfer Catherine Bristow also fired a 69. The New Zealand Breakers face the penultimate test of their desperate push for the Australian basketball playoffs tonight, hosting the minor premiership winners Melbourne United in Auckland. Captain Mika Vukona says they're feeling pretty good about their chances.
Confident, really. Guys are pretty upbeat. We've had three wins in a row, which has been good for us. But really looking forward to this Melbourne game. We really owe it to them, we feel. And it's a great way to try and battle it out for that last final spot.
Mika Vukona, that's the news.
Tonight on Nights, all mixed up with the Everly brothers. Country Life visits the Coromandel farm of racing driver Rod Millen. His drive also doubles as a racetrack. Paul Kennedy talks Australian sport, including day 1 of the cricket at the Basin Reserve. And we have a Sonic Tonic dedicated to the songs and sounds of the radio. On Nights with me, Brian Crump, you know where to find us. After the news at 7 on RNZ National.
Met Service weather now to midnight tomorrow Saturday. Northland fine today, cloudy with showers tomorrow. Auckland, Coromandel Peninsula and Bay of Plenty mainly fine but isolated evening rain. Mostly cloudy tomorrow with late showers in the east. Taupo, Taihape, Gisborne and Hawke's Bay fine. Scattered afternoon and evening showers tomorrow, some heavy and thundery. In the west from Waikato to Wellington including Wairarapa, generally fine. Marlborough, Nelson and Buller fine apart from isolated afternoon or evening showers inland tomorrow. For Fiordland, rain easing this evening, fine tomorrow apart from late drizzle. For the rest of the South Island, fine apart from areas of cloud morning and night and a few morning showers about Canterbury and North Otago, retreating to the foothills in the afternoon. The Chatham Islands, cloudy with the odd shower tomorrow. It's coming up to 8 minutes past 5.
Thanks, Katrina. We're going to begin in Palmerston North. Shekinah Skipper, a 5-year-old girl, was walking to school with her sisters when a man in a white sedan, that is the car that has been described, pulled her into the vehicle. Police believe the man was not known to Shekinah.
Shekinah was pulled into a white vehicle by male at approximately 8:30 a.m. today while she's walking to school on Shamrock Avenue with her sisters. We launched a number of area searches to locate her, and it included an aerial support. We received a phone call from a member of the public who advised us that Shekinah had been dropped off in the area and been found by another member of the public. We have not identified the male or the make or model of the vehicle he was driving, apart from the information that the vehicle is a white sedan. What we are asking for, we're really wanting to hear from anyone who saw a male driving a white sedan in the Shamrock Street surrounds at about 8:30 this morning. And then again, that same vehicle in Hines Street later on at about 11 o'clock today. These people who live in the area may have noticed a male or a vehicle that just didn't fit, and they may be able to help us.
That's the Manawatu Area Commander, Inspector Sarah Stewart. We'll have more from our reporter, Kate Gudsell, who's in Palmerston North. This is a developing story. Obviously, this man who was driving the sedan and pulled Shekinah into it has still not been found. If there's anything to update, we will cross immediately to Kate, but she's going to join us live with the latest after 6 o'clock. But let's go to Palmerston North's Mayor now, Grant Smith. Grant, thank you for joining us live on the phone. Obviously, this is a harrowing experience for the community.
Oh, definitely, John. And I must say, somewhat isolated, but definitely harrowing for the family and community at large. But in speaking to the police commander just a short while ago, they are putting all their resources into locating this person.
Yeah, and it's absolutely an isolated case. If this man is not known to the family and this is a genuine stranger danger abduction, they are highly unusual in New Zealand history, which I guess means everyone is very much on edge, particularly in the community where this occurred.
Yes, but thank goodness the young girl's relatives and sisters did play that stranger danger card, and thank goodness that an elderly gentleman
absolutely
found her. So I mean, look, there is some positives out of it, but yes, very, very harrowing for the family, and I mean just that worst possible thing that could possibly have happened. So thank goodness that hasn't.
Yes, Shekinah sisters did everything right, obviously, by just screaming and making a lot of a noise and raising the alarm. Do you know the family? You know the wider family, I think, Grant.
Yes, I do, and I'm just trying to get in touch with the mum at the moment, but just to see if there's anything the city can do for them. But it is harrowing, and we don't want to hassle them in any way, but certainly provide any backup or any services that we can help.
Palmerston North Mayor Grant Smith, thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it. And if anything develops in this story in terms of sightings or arrests or any information about Shekinah's condition, we will immediately cross back to Palmerston North. It's 6:11. We turn now to a letter we've obtained here at Checkpoint from the plant manager at AFCO Rangiuru to workers who took Monday off. It calls workers who took a Monday-ised Waitangi holiday to a meeting with AFCO management, alleging, and I quote, serious misconduct. The letter says, and again I quote, if the allegation of serious misconduct is substantiated, then it could result in disciplinary action, including your dismissal. Now, we called AFCO about this letter and they refused to be interviewed. So we went to AFCO's owners, the Tallies group of companies wholly owned by the Talley family. Sir Peter Talley also declined to be interviewed, telling our producer, I don't like John Campbell. That is at Rangiuru, which is near Te Puke. In Wairoa, between Gisborne and Napier, locked out AFCO workers have won another victory in their employment court dispute with the company. In November, the court ruled AFCO's refusal to employ freezing workers who declined individual contracts was unlawful. Yesterday, the employment court effectively ruled that those locked out workers should be able to return to their old jobs. Now, we wanted to talk to AFCO about this as well. Again, they declined. But the lockout began in September, leaving workers without wages and a community sometimes bitterly divided about the choice between a job and a collective contract. In October, I went to Wairoa to interview workers locked out after refusing to sign those individual contracts. And today, we Skyped those workers who were meeting together at their union office. Hello, how are you? Tina?
Yes.
How are you?
Happy now, happier now.
Tell me about the past few months, Tina. How hard have they been?
Bloody hard. Been really hard. We ran out of money for our food parcels, so we haven't had any food parcels since the week before Christmas. Depression has crept in amongst some of our members. It seems to us we have got a town that doesn't give a shit about us. It's been bloody hard. So today's news is a big lift of a lot of people's shoulders if the company carries through on what they're supposed to.
What have you been living on? Tina, what have people been living on?
Parents. People have been living on parents, friends, anything they get their hands on. We've still had a lot of donations, which we're really thankful. And we've got a bit of stores in there. So we've had some people with no food. We try and accommodate them, and from going to other people's freezers to giving them a hand to anything we can do.
Do you think the company will now let you back to your old jobs on your old shifts? Is that going to happen?
Honestly, for me, I don't think so. they're going to try and kick us around and...
We're going to be bullied.
But yeah, bugger us around for a little while. That's my feelings. I'm hoping I'm so wrong. Because, but I think we know them by now after 5 months of this.
5 months.
Yep. September the 5th was our first lockout, and we're still here. Still living on $175.
And Tina, when I was there, I talked to people whose families were divided. One partner was back at work, one partner was staying out. This had divided the town. It's been really tough, hasn't it?
Yep, it has. Now those people that were divided, some of them have split up. Some of them have gone, they've left Wairoa. Families are still divided. I think it's more so now than before. There's a real hate in this town. And it's funny enough, it's about those ones working that don't want us to go back. There's a real split in this town now.
Who's sitting beside you?
So
I can see half of a man sitting beside you.
That's Pete.
Oh, yeah. How are you going?
Oh, I'm awesome, Johnny. There's a division within the town, but these ones here made a stand not just for this town, but for all of New Zealand, all unions. You know, if we didn't make this stand, the teachers would be shafted, the nurses, and so on and so on. Everybody had been waiting for this law to be used. And we stood up and took it, and you got to give credit to everybody, and we won it again, and we stood up with passion in our heart that we were right, and we did it. It's
up to a company now.
We didn't want this to be a bad thing and a reflection of how this town is, but we are. Oh, I'm just so proud of this team. This team did everything. This team stood up for itself. It said no to a company that hated its own workers.
I just see Daphne was standing behind you. There's Daphne. Daphne, can you come in close to the microphone? Daphne, how are you, Daphne? How are you feeling?
Fabulous, absolutely fabulous with the decision. It's just, it's like a big weight's been lifted, John.
Why did you stay out for all these months? Why was it so important, this point of principle?
Because I believed in my heart we were right. You know, I believed that, oh man, I can't even describe it, John. You know, if we didn't stand up for ourselves, who would? We made the stand, we had to make the stand, and I'm just so proud of everyone, you know. It's been a long, tough road on everyone, but we got there. We'll continue to keep going forward and just hope that, you know, we can get on with this company and just start rebuilding our friendships and rifts with our family and friends.
Daphne, do you think you can go back? Do you think AFCO want you back? Do you think you can all work together again there in Wairoa?
I could probably 100% tell you they don't want us back, John, but you know, that's our jobs, our livelihood we've had for 20 plus, 30 plus years, so, and we just want to restore what was actually ours for those years, you know. Our families, my father's been there 30-something years, and other people's families have been there for so long, you know. We just want our jobs back and to get on with it.
19 minutes after 5. That was Daphne Wharehinga, by the way, an AFCO worker in Wairoa. We did try very hard today to get some response from a representative of AFCO, their CEO, or anyone within the organisation who was able to speak about what was going on at Rangiuru or at Wairoa. They declined. We also, of course, went to AFCO's owners, the Talley family. They also declined to be interviewed. Coming up next on Checkpoint, the owner of land at the centre of a $2 million crowdfunding drive is pursued by the Bank of New Zealand for close to $6 million in unpaid loans. And later in the program, petrol prices may have fallen, so why is there more than 20 cents a litre variation from station to station? This is quite bizarre. We'd love to hear from you in any way you choose. You can text us 2101, you can email checkpoint@radionz.co.nz, and our Facebook and Twitter address is checkpoint RNZ. 5:20. A crowdfunding campaign to buy a private Abel Tasman beach is edging towards its $2 million target, with only a few $1,000s now left to go. We should point out that this is, and Gareth Morgan keeps making this point, this is a somewhat arbitrary figure. It is a tender process. No one knows how much it's going to sell for, but it is now very close to $2 million. Much bigger sums are at stake for the beach's current owner, who's being pursued by the Bank of New Zealand for close to $6 million in unpaid loans. The BNZ went to the High Court in Wellington today seeking a judgment against Michael Spackman and his son-in-law and business partner, Mike Garnham. The bank says the case is a straightforward matter of debt recovery, and it wants to force the sale of mortgage properties owned by the pair, which do include that beach at Awaroa. But Mr Spackman's lawyer says the bank has acted unconscionably, has misled his clients, and the case should go to a full trial. The court has reserved its decision. Meanwhile, the campaign to buy the beach has 2 days left to go before that tender process for it closes. Our Nelson reporter Tracy Neal went to Awaroa today and spoke with locals about the area and their views on the campaign. And Tracy now joins us live from Kaiteriteri, which is a beautiful part of the world. Tracy, where did you go today?
Hi, John. Well, I've spent the day up at Awaroa Beach, which is a place I'm fairly familiar with. But look, I spent the day talking to locals there and holiday homeowners. But I think what's evident, John, is that this is about more than just a beach. It's about New Zealanders staking a claim on what's important to them, which is having equal access or share to this wilderness paradise. So for those who've grown up in the area, like Daryl Wilson, whose family has been there since the 1860s, it's about entrenched family memories. And Daryl's head of Wilson's Abel Tasman, which is a tour company here, and that family are busy sharing those memories with all that visit the area. I also spoke with Kathy Franks. Now, Kathy and Stephen Franks have a holiday home of beautifully arranged railway carriages opposite the property that's up for sale at the moment. They've been there about 30 years and completely adore the place. And Kathy loves the idea of a public kayak camp there, which, I mean, Abel Tasman is full of kayaks,
famously.
Beautiful kayaking area and boating area. And that sounds like a great idea, but it's a sign of the level of support from locals for public ownership of the piece of land. She says the place has never been so busy this past week, with helicopters and aircraft scoping out the place, or just being curious. She wasn't sure that it was a sign of massive interest from potential other buyers or not. Yesterday, I also spoke with Sephra Rayner, whose grandparents sold the property to the current vendor, and she told me that she didn't think $2 million, which is the benchmark price we're talking about, she didn't think that was too over the top. She said it was a priceless bit of land, and even $10 million wouldn't be too much, while others are worried that more people stomping on the beach could harm some rare coastal birds that nest in this very rich lagoon area.
Tracy, I know the Abel Tas a little bit, and I know that area a little bit, but I'm a bit confused about Awaroa. How do you get to it? How do most of the people who sit on the beach there and go for a swim, if indeed they do, how do they arrive at it?
Well, the bulk of people make use of the vast array of really efficient water taxi services that operate here, or they hike in. Awaroa is at the northern end of the park. It's just a little bit south of Tautarunui.
I know where you are, yep.
Yes, and then around the corner is Golden Bay.
Yeah, beautiful.
So yeah, by far the majority of people take a boat in there, although some residents have quite a peculiar road access into that area, which is quite a hidden access area that they need to take a boat across. So, yeah, it's a little complicated, but that's part of the beauty.
Yeah, absolutely. Tracy, just before we go, with the Spackmans, with the family who currently own it, who are in this pretty tense dispute with the BNZ at present, were they often seen there? Are they known to the locals?
Not really, no. I spoke with Ian and Sue Jones yesterday, who live in Nelson, and they have been long-time property owners there, and told me that the Spackmans weren't often there. They did come with good intentions, and they put water tanks on the property with the aim of developing it. And it is an extremely beautiful bit of property on what is described as a dynamic coastal environment there. The sand spit does change with the tide, but the three dwellings that are on the place, which are very iconic New Zealand-style batches, if that's probably the best way of describing them. But no, apparently they weren't there a great deal of the time.
Tracy Neal reporting from Kaiteri Terry, who has been at Awaroa today. Thank you so much, Tracy. 5:25. We invited Conservation Minister Maggie Barry onto the show tonight. We wanted to talk to her about whether the government would contribute to the crowdfund or speak to the BNZ. She declined. The crowdfunding campaign is just $13,000 short of the $2 million target. I guess the big question is, will $2 million be enough? We'll hear from Dwayne Major, who's behind the campaign and has been a regular guest on Checkpoint over the past couple of weeks. Starting, I think the first time he spoke to us was about 20 grand in the kitty. So he's done incredibly well in the interim. Will it be enough? He'll join us later. 3 New Zealanders are among a group charged with the murders of 2 people whose bodies appear to have been found stuffed in a metal box in Queensland. Juliana Triscaru and Corey Breton went missing near Brisbane late last month. Police have been scouring a dam in Logan since Wednesday in their search for the pair, and yesterday found a box containing human remains. 6 people have now been charged with the deaths, and 3 of them are reported to be New Zealand born. Kim Stevens, a journalist with the Brisbane Times, has been covering this story. Kim, thank you for joining us via Skype. We're very grateful. Can you talk us through what police have said today? What have they found? Who's been charged? What do you know?
Okay, so this all actually kind of came to a head yesterday with the big discovery yesterday morning of the box in the dam. So it's quite an unusual one in that 6 people have all been charged with 2 counts of murder. So not we're talking, a main person or a main 2 people and the others charged with accessory and that kind of thing. So 6 people have all been charged with the murders of both Juliana and Corey Breton. So it's quite an intriguing one. So I guess I'll have to go back to the beginning because it has been an ongoing investigation. So it all started at the end of January when 3 people were reported missing, Corey, Juliana and a friend of theirs, Leland Harrington. Now, police made an appeal for them, for anyone with information about their whereabouts in early February, thinking their disappearances could be linked. Now, then, lo and behold, a few days later, Leland Harrington showed up alive. And it was about then that the investigation really kind of kicked into gear, because I think he has been cooperative with the police. Soon after he showed up, he went and spoke to them, and 2 crime scenes were declared. One was his unit in Logan, which is about 20 minutes south of Brisbane, and another was a vacant lot with a dam on it very close by. So what we now know has transpired was that on that night, in a suspected drug-related or a fight over a drug debt, Juliana and Corey were both allegedly beaten up at the unit, stuffed into a metal tradesman's box, which was then loaded onto the back of a ute, driven to a nearby dam where they were taken out of the box and allegedly both shot dead, then put back into the box, which was then submerged in the dam.
Wow,
and
this
obviously,
is brutal. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And now, who's been arrested? We know some people are New Zealanders. Absolutely, that's been stated as fact. But there are others who seem on the face of it to have New Zealand names, Māori names, so they may be connected to New Zealand too?
Possibly. We've got 3 New Zealand-born people and 2 from Australia. There is one name there that you may think was a New Zealand name. Does look like a Maori name, but he is in fact Australian-born. There's also a 36-year-old mother of 7 among those charged. She's from the Cook Islands.
Okay, incredible case. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Kim Stevens with the Brisbane Times. Absolutely brutal. Murder. Breaking news, a Wellington-based iwi trust has not received the votes it needed to go ahead with plans to sell waterfront land at Shelley Bay. The rest of the country may be wondering what that story's about, but if you're a Wellingtonian, that will really mean something to you. A Wellington-based iwi trust has not received the votes it needed to go ahead with plans to sell waterfront land at Shelley Bay. The time is exactly 5:30 now, and here is Katrina Batten with the RNZ News headlines.
Residents of the Palmerston North community, where a 5-year-old girl was snatched off the street on her way to school today, say they're shocked and worried for their own children. The police are still hunting the man who dragged Shakina Realize Skipper away from her sisters and into a white car at about 8:30 this morning. He dropped her on another street unharmed. AFCO is launching what it calls a serious misconduct action against meat workers at the company's Rangiuru plant who took last Monday off work following Waitangi Day. Workers who took a Mondayised Waitangi holiday are being called to a meeting with management to discuss their actions. A letter sent to Checkpoint says workers may be in breach of their employment agreement and their absence could amount to an unlawful strike. The Prime Minister, Judith Collins, says she'll consider allowing the cars of drivers who flee police to be crushed. Ms Collins says it's important to take innovative measures to deter drivers from fleeing from the police. The government is already considering law changes to increase driver disqualification periods and lower the thresholds for seizing an offender's car. And as John just mentioned, a Wellington-based iwi trust has failed to win approval to sell waterfront land at Shelley Bay. The Port Nicholson Block Settlement Trust needed 75% of iwi voters in favour of the proposal, but only got 51%. The property firm Wellington Company made an offer of $11 million for the Shelley Bay land. And Australia has recovered from losing 2 early wickets to be 126 for 2 on the first day of the first test at the Basin Reserve in Wellington. Australia earlier skittled New Zealand for 183, with bowler Mark Craig top scoring for the Black Caps with 41. I'll have more news, sport and weather at 6.
So getting along at a worrying clip now, those Aussies.
Very worrying, yes, bad.
Oh, pitches settled. Goodness gracious me. Thanks, Katrina. See you at 6. Let's turn to business news now with Jonathan Mitchell. Jonathan, volatility is the order of the day, the order of the week, the order of the year so far, but it's actually volatile, trending down a lot of it, isn't it?
That's right. Well, some heavy declines coming through again today, John. We're going to go overseas first. Look at Japan. Look, the Nikkei's down to its lowest level in about 15 months. Last look a few minutes ago, it was down about 3 or 4%. Now, you remember earlier in the week, rates were cut to below zero, so that's the reason for volatility there. Next cab off the rank, we've got Europe. They've suffered some heavy losses as well. That's due to poor bank results. We've got the FTSE 300 index falling 3.7%. Now, that's the lowest level in 2.5 years.
Wow.
European bank stocks, they fell about 6%. So investors clearly in flight mode. They're after safe haven assets. You've got your yen, you've got your gold and good quality government bonds. So sitting on the sidelines of this all week, it's been an interesting and turbulent week. Lots of volatility, worry about the health of the global economy. We're expecting that to continue. We've got China coming back online next week. They've been on holiday with the Lunar New Year. Expect more volatility. We're expecting some information about those measures put in place to help stimulate the economy. So that could shake the Chinese market a bit when it comes back.
Sorry, did you mention Japan then? I was just looking at my notes and I'm staggered. The FTSE, 2.5 years? What's Japan done this week? So the FTSE's at its lowest level for 2.5 years. Where's Japan at?
The Nikkei, that's down to its lowest level in about 15 months, 3-4%.
Goodness, okay, so when China comes back, that's going to be really agenda setting. And if the Chinese market sell, then goodness gracious me. In the meantime, New Zealand is kind of quietly minding its own business to a certain extent. And we've got some big results next week, right?
That's right. Well, we're in the midst of earnings season. Recapping some of those key players we've had this week, we've had ASB, Sky City and Michael Hill making gains. Overall, for this half-year earnings season, we're expecting our flat results. But next week, yes, the key week, we've got Fletcher Building, Spark, Contact and Auckland Airport. So we'll keep you posted on what happens there.
Jonathan Mitchell, who's been filing business for us this week. Thanks so much, Jonathan. Have a fantastic weekend. Let's keep talking business to a certain extent, but on a much more personal scale. This is about petrol. We all know petrol prices are down, but how much they're down when you fill up your tank depends enormously on where you go. This is really bizarre. The national average fuel price is the cheapest it's been in a year, dropping 6 cents so far this week to $1.69 77 cents a litre. But some motorists may be getting a better deal than others, and just really shopping around, which you're always told to do, but we don't because we all go to the same petrol station all the time, may save you as much as 20 cents a litre. Our Auckland reporter Mohammed Hassan went out to see if this is indeed the case.
I'm here at Caltex on the Mount Wellington Highway. Yesterday, this was the cheapest place to get gas in all of Auckland. It was 1.53 cents per litre. Today, it's gone up just a little bit. It's 1.54, nearly 1.55. Let's see what some people think. My name's Mohammed. I'm from Radio New Zealand. Is there a reason that you come here, or is it just on your way?
Convenience. I need a gas, and these guys are right across the road, so yeah, I'm not really sort of driven by pricing. It's all about when I'm running out of gas.
Yes, well, we live within the area, so
oh, cool.
We like it when the petrol prices do go down.
Yeah, because they have gone down 6 cents this year. It's the lowest in 12 months.
Oh, it's great, especially when we travel far, because we do a lot of travelling to the far north, and the prices become dearer. So
yeah.
It's always good to gas up in Auckland City before we travel anywhere.
Just 11 kilometres west in Sandringham, it's nearly 10 cents a litre more expensive to fill up. But at 163 per litre, it's still a bargain, and some know it.
I come all the way from Herne Bay to get my fuel here. Why pay another 10 cents more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the price around where you're living?
It's $1.70, 77 I think it is.
We live about 10 minutes away from here, but yeah, if I need to put petrol in the car and there's no gallon down, obviously I'll go to another one, but if I have the choice to, then I'll come here.
Yeah, because if you drive into the city, it can go up to like 177.
Yes.
Yeah.
I still don't understand why there would be so much difference.
So why do petrol prices vary so widely? An AA spokesperson, Mark Stockdale, says it's all because of petrol retailer Gull.
Well, that's basically price competition. Low-cost fuel companies like Gull, they are a cheaper fuel brand, they have lower costs, and they also pay less tax on their premium petrol because it's got ethanol in it. And so for all those reasons, they're doing the right thing by charging less for their fuel. It's exactly what they should be doing.
And that ripples out to other companies as well.
And then other fuel companies, who operate in the same area as Gull, feel that they need to match Gull's prices, because if they don't match Gull's prices, all of the consumers will go to the Gull service stations.
That's good news for some motorists, but less so for those who don't live near a Gull. One of the most expensive places to fill up in Auckland is at a BP in the upmarket suburb of Remuera, of all places, where the cost of fuel matches the price of the real estate. It's currently at 177 a litre, bang on the national price. Motorist James McKay says he's filling up begrudgingly.
No, I actually live on the North Shore. It's probably about 10 cents cheaper.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You've kind of had to fill up here.
Yeah, out of obligation, right on low, so you've got to fill it up, eh?
But usually when you fill up, do you go out of your way to look for places that are cheaper?
Yeah, I usually know the cheaper spots, and I'll tend to go to those ones more.
So today, as you're filling up and paying 177, how happy are you that you're paying that?
Well, we're only putting in a little bit just to get home, so I guess that's not too bad, but if it was cheaper, that would be better, eh?
And there could be more good news to come. The AA says it expects petrol companies to shave off another 3 or 4 cents by the end of the week. So even if you do have to fill up in Remuera, another cut might soften the blow. For Checkpoint, Mohammed Hassan.
Time now for your feedback. Lots of it coming in on AFCO and tallies. George says, I hate to think how much AFCO are going to have to pay out for unfair dismissals. Of course, we need to say none of these people have been dismissed yet. The Rangiora workers who took the Monday Waitangi Day had been called in for meetings. It's alleged there is serious misconduct in them taking the day off, and the letter does refer to the possibility of a dismissal. That hasn't happened yet. The dispute, of course, between the workers, their union and AFCO is over whether or not they were entitled to that Monday off. Duncan says, AFCO ever progressive, they must have hated the social welfare influence of Charles Dickens. Ian says it's a great win for these unionised workers. Time for tallies to cut the crap and get back to the table. Ian is referring to Wairoa, which is a different matter, where the workers were locked out because they wouldn't sign individual contracts. The Employment Court has now twice said that behaviour was unlawful, and it looks like those workers will get back in Wairoa. Lee says, AFCO used to be a terrific company. My dad worked for them for decades, not out of Freezing Works, and they treated him very well. He was a great employee, and I have to say, But nevertheless, AFCO management these days. Margaret, as a former HR consultant, I'm appalled at tallies. This is just an appalling situation. If increasing New Zealand's productivity means screwing low-paid workers even more, I just throw up my hands. This is a New Zealand I don't want to be part of. Lots and lots of feedback coming in along those lines. Let's head overseas. World leaders in Munich for Syrian peace talks have agreed to accelerate and expand the delivery of humanitarian aid in Syria, and I quote, beginning immediately. US Secretary of State John Kerry said he and his counterparts had agreed that aid was urgently needed for those suffering, so many people suffering, as a result of the Syrian war.
We believe we have made progress on both the humanitarian front and the cessation of hostilities front. And these two fronts, this progress, has the potential, fully implemented, fully followed through on, to be able to change the daily lives of the Syrian people. First, we have agreed to accelerate and expand the delivery of humanitarian aid beginning immediately, and to ensure that it is fully implemented. The United Nations will convene a task force made up of members of the ISSG and of relevant UN entities and of countries that have an influence on the parties particularly. And this working group will meet tomorrow in Geneva. It will ensure that humanitarian access is granted by all sides to all people who require help. And what we have here are words on paper. What we need to see in the next few days are actions on the ground in the field.
That's John Kerry, US Secretary of State. Of course, the difficulty with getting stuff into Syria is that who do you negotiate with? Area by area, it changes, and often it changes within the area, and that's what they're trying to achieve in Munich, some kind of agreement to get the aid in. A battle between rival drug gangs at a prison in the northeastern Mexican city of Monterrey has left 52 people dead, days ahead of a planned visit by Pope Francis. This report's come in from Reuters.
They arrived at Monterrey's Topo Chico prison not knowing if their loved ones were dead or alive. An outbreak of violence between rival gangs inside the prison had killed more than 50 people. But at the prison gates, family members were unable to find out who had died and who had survived.
Give us the names, please, the names, that's it. They should tell us, because since midnight we were told there was a riot and they have not wanted to come out and give us answers.
Riots have become increasingly common in Mexico's overpopulated prisons, which often house prisoners from rival drug cartels. But this one, coming just a few days before a scheduled visit to another prison by Pope Francis, is among the worst in recent years.
That report from Reuters, 52 people dead in that riot. Let's check in on the cricket. We're going to talk to our sports editor in a few minutes' time, but let's update the score. Australia 131 for 3. So there has been a breakthrough. Smith is out. Caught a bolt. I'm just looking at this now as it's updating. Australia were 2 for 5, and then they put on 125 odd for the third wicket. But there has been a breakthrough, a really important one. Smith gone. And the Kiwis, small first innings total. They need to take more wickets fast. We'll talk about that with Stephen Houston in a moment. But it's Friday, fish and chip day for many people. It's not unusual, but it's a different proposition when the setting is a naval ship and 400 people are feasting on fish and chips at once. The Navy today hosted diners on board the HMNZS Canterbury for their fish and chips lunch. Fish and chips, in this case, to raise funds for the Wellington City Mission. Our Defence reporter Kate Pereira Garcia went along.
On deck the Canterbury, nearly 400 people crowd into a marquee to dine on fresh sushi, mini bagels with smoked salmon and the main course, good old fish and chips. It's the second time the Fish and Chips event has been held in Wellington Harbour to raise money for the City Mission. Local caterer Ruth Pretty is providing the entree and dessert courses and says serving on a Navy vessel is surprisingly easy.
As you would imagine, the Navy are extremely organised. They have a beautiful kitchen, a great team of people working with them, and the things we've bought are all pre-prepared anyway, and we're just really plattering them up.
Glad we're following you, because I don't think we would have found this.
A bit of a rebel warrant, and it took me about 2 weeks to get used to the place.
Below deck in the galley, the Navy is in charge of frying up the fish and chips. The chief chef, Wayne Mitchell, ordered 80 kilograms of fresh snapper and about the same amount of chips for today. He says the whopping 160 kilograms of food is not actually that unusual.
We do have fish and chip nights as a special night when we've been at sea for a while. Guys like a bit of taste of home they usually have on a Friday night, so we try and emulate that while we're at sea. We also have different theme nights, but generally we do three meals a day for up to 366 people when the Army and other embarked forces are on board.
The Canterbury's commanding officer, Simon Rook, says today is slightly fancier than a normal meal on the mess deck.
It's just a slight tailoring of what we would consider business as usual.
A bit flasher maybe?
Absolutely, much flasher. The people who are supporting the mission by buying tickets today are here for a gourmet food experience in a unique environment with a view. We do have fish and chip nights, but not normally with silver table service, certainly not alcohol.
Today's event will raise about $30,000. That may sound like a lot, but it's about 1% of all the donations and grants the mission received last year. Chief Executive Michelle Branney says running the mission is expensive, and they appreciate everything the Navy has done to make this event a success. The Chief of Navy, John Martin, says they want to support the great work the Wellington City Mission does.
It's helping people who are in desperate need and who come under circumstances which are out of their control. And we sort of do the same thing overseas. And this ship in particular, HMNZ Canterbury, our support ship, does that sort of thing overseas, bringing aid and succour to the people of the Southwest Pacific.
A classic Kiwi lunch on board a Navy ship, bringing charity full circle. For Checkpoint, Kate Pereira Garcia.
Nice way of raising money. Thanks, Kate. Let's go to Stephen Hewson, our sports editor, who is at the Basin. Stephen, look at you. Sorry, for people watching, Stephen has you spent the day at the cricket, haven't you, Stephen? You've got to love, you've got a bit of sun. Yeah, our heart bleeds for you having that job.
Tough job.
Yeah, tough. Yeah. Anyway, it was a bit of a tough job watching New Zealand bat, because although sometimes the Black Caps have given away their wickets cheaply, credit where credit's due. Australia bowled and fielded really well, didn't they?
They have, John, and I mean winning the toss for Australia was very crucial. I mean, things didn't go right for Brendan McCullum right from the start of today. Remember, of course, this is his 100th Test match. He lost the toss, as he seems prone to do, and the wickets then began to fall, really, and his was amongst them, of course, and he was out for a duck in his 100th consecutive Test match. So, like you say, very good bowling from the Australians, but on a deck that suited them and provided plenty of assistance for the likes of Josh Hazlewood and Peter Siddle. It was seaming around a bit. It was quite green, the Basin Reserve pitch, and it's a toss that, had Brendan McCullum no doubt won, he would have taken the opportunity to bowl as well. So, yeah, all out for 183. I think the last 3 wickets for New Zealand put on 86 runs, and the previous 7 had put on 97. So, the tail enders certainly helped.
That Hazlewood's a curious fellow, isn't he? Well, I mean, not a curious fellow. I'm talking about his bowling. I don't know what he's like as a person, but he just puts the ball on the spot. I mean, he's not a demon speedster. He wasn't moving it that much, but by golly, his accuracy and just a little bit of a way swing was really working, wasn't it?
It was, and I mean, that's what the bowlers have got to do when they get conditions like this. If they weren't able to make the most of them, you'd be asking, why not? But Peter Siddle and Josh Hazlewood, they did get a fair bit of seam movement there, and it caused all sorts of problems for the Black Caps. I mean, like you said just earlier on, the Australians did slump to 5 for 2, but Steve Smith and Usman Khawaja turned things around, and they sort of took it through to about 135, 136 for 3 now. Steve Smith just out a short time ago for 71, but Usman Khawaja's still there, and the deck has certainly improved a bit. There's not nearly as much assistance as the Australian bowlers got,
No.
and the Australians are making the most of that, closing in on that total.
Yeah, that was, as you said, it was a cracker of a toss to win. Gosh, Smith was looking good. I didn't see that caught and bowled by Craig, but that was a good wicket to get. He was looking settled, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, he also had a bit of an opportunity. There was a stumping opportunity earlier on too off Mark Craig, so that was a bit unfortunate that was missed by the Black Caps, because that very much needed some wickets if they're going to play their way back into this game, because they seem to be making a habit of they start slowly in series. They did exactly this when, of course, in the 3-match series in Australia just before Christmas, that first Brisbane Test, they were beaten all ends up.
Yeah.
Sort of became much more competitive as the series went on. Unfortunately, they haven't got much time for this one, because it's only a 2-test series.
Yeah. Thanks, Stephen. Really appreciate it. So just updating Australia, 3 down for about 133. I think Stephen Hewson, our sports editor at the Cricket, at the Basin Reserve. We're going to stay in Wellington because this is just breaking, this news at 5:50. A Wellington-based iwi trust has not received the votes it needed to go ahead with plans to sell waterfront land at Shelley Bay. The Port Nicholson Block Settlement Trust needed 75% in favour of the proposal, but it's just announced it's only received 51%. The property firm Wellington Company has made an offer on the land of $11 million. Joining me now is the Port Nicholson Block Settlement Trust chairperson, Neville Baker. Neville, welcome to the program. Can I just get some clarity around what your personal position was? Did you want to sell?
Kia ora, yes. We had a very hard look at the future of the trust, and part of the portfolio that would allow us to move on is Shelley Bay, and the returns from Shelley Bay would have allowed the commercial board, which we set up in September, the ability to be able to start creating the wealth for the trust. And secondly, there was an offer which we believe that was at the level that Shelley Bay could sell. So that was my personal position, and it was certainly the position at the time of the commercial board and of the trustees.
So why couldn't you get the 75% required? If it's your belief, and it looks like it's the belief of the CEO, Jason Fox, as well, that it was good to rationalise this asset, why couldn't you persuade people of that fact?
I think that there's a couple of difficulties. One is that it did come at the time of Christmas, which was over the holidays, and we, have to say that we communicated that initially. But as we went on, there were people who responded on the basis that they felt that we should not, one, sell Murray land, and two, that we should not sell the land to a developer, because there were other suggestions coming from the floor that we should have communicated with other entities that we could have developed a way forward with. Now, we had tested that with 3 other developers that we had approached, and the only offer that we had on the table was the one from the Wellington Development Company.
A low voter turnout?
Well, it's better than we've had in previous times, but it's still low. The difficulty with iwi trusts is that people don't vote, and what would be very encouraging for us is that if all the members that were communicated with did cast a vote. So, that's something for the future that needs to be looked at, and we're not the only iwi that has that problem. So, it's a matter of being able to communicate better. I would acknowledge that. And secondly, probably spending a lot more time talking with smaller groups rather than perhaps the larger groups that we address.
Sure. Neville, I'm just catching up with this because all of this is breaking, but I have a sense that there is a degree of suspicion amongst some of your members about the management of the Port Nicholson Trust. Is that, and maybe people would rather hold the land than take a risk with the money. Am I being unfair there?
You're not being unfair. You're probably sort of thinking along the lines that some other people have voiced. But the Trust has not had an easy ride, and there are some aspects of the sale which are still matters before the court, and of course those matters are suppressed, and so I'm not able to sort of give the full background.
Yeah, okay. So I just wonder if people see the land as an asset that they can hold on to that can't be, in a way, squandered, misspent, lost, wasted.
Yeah. Can I just tell you that I've got a very commercially sensitive board of very experienced people. And what I can say to you is that that board was set up in September of last year.
Right.
And prior to that, it was the trust making decisions around the trust table. And so what we've done is we've separated the commercial asset away from the trust table, and that sits with the commercial board.
Okay, so you've got the new board, the new commercial board. What happens now? If you can't get the vote, you've got the land. Obviously, there's all sorts of costs attached to having the land. There's upkeep, there's rates, there's all that kind of stuff. What are you going to do?
Well, there are a couple of things that will happen. Is that we do have a lease with the Wellington Development Company, and that lease will carry on. But that lease does not give us a return that is in concert with the value of the land and the value of the project. So that carries on. Second part is that we will go back to the drawing board and we'll assess what happened at the consultation round. Obviously, we'll take notice of the vote, and then we'll come back with some options.
Okay, thank you so much, Neville. We appreciate that. Neville Baker is the Port Nicholson Block Settlement Trust chairperson. For those of you who don't really know where Shelley Bay is in Wellington, if you drive around Evans Bay as if you were going to the airport, and instead of turning right at the roundabout to go to the airport, you turn left, head past the Miramar Peninsula. I'm doing a lot of hand movement here, which is not at all helpful to people on the radio, and head out opposite to the end of the harbour, kind of opposite Mount Vic, I suppose. And Haitaitai, that's where Shelley Bay is. That was the worst description of geography in the history of radio, and I unreservedly apologise. This is a delightful story about puppy love and how it could end up saving a life. That's what the Auckland Council's hoping for, hosting a version of speed dating for dogs that need a home at Victoria Park in Auckland, just down the road from us here at Radio New Zealand. People had the chance to walk, pat and play with 45 dogs from the council's 3 animal shelters, a kind of introductory service. Our reporter Tom Furley was given the tough job of going to have a look.
Plenty of people passing through Victoria Park were taking the chance to meet a prospective canine match.
I just have cats at the moment. I'd love to get a dog, but I can't at the moment, so this is a really good outlet for me to come down and, get some doggy cuddles and see what else is out there on offer for when I do get a dog.
Just a complete love of animals, We've always been a wonderful family with animals, and we have actually adopted a couple from the SPCA. So yeah, I thought I'd come down here out of curiosity's sake and have a look around.
Oh, we lost our dog November, so just before Christmas. So yeah, I'm just kind of getting some doggy love really, just kind of whipped out of work for a bit of doggy love.
Among them was Andre DeWitt, who was down on his lunch break on the lookout for a dog to adopt.
After more the snub-nosed dogs like a Boston Terrier or a French Bulldog ones. But there's a little dog called Doug that's a toy poodle over there that's sort of catching my fancy, so I'm hoping to get a walk with her and see if, how he feels about me. So yeah, that's just exploring and hoping there's something here for me.
While none of the dogs could be taken home today, Mr. DeWitt says he's all for getting a dog from the shelter.
Yeah, rather than the pure breeds, it's a trade-off, because on the one hand you do want to rescue a dog, but if you really want to go for a specific breed, you narrow down the selection, So, but yeah, I suppose why pay very expensive for a full breed if you can rescue a dog, Makes a lot of sense.
Last year, 9,000 dogs were rescued and put in Auckland Council shelters, but almost 4,000 of those ended up being put down. The council's head of animal management, Tracy Moore, says it's important to make sure dogs and their prospective owners are a good match.
Auckland Council doesn't rehome dogs that are of menacing breed, and so that's the majority of the dogs that are just left by owners really, and they don't come and pick them up. But we also, before we rehome a dog, we'll do a temperament test with them to check their suitability for living with a family, and a health check.
She says as well as bringing dogs and potential owners together, today's a chance to show people they don't have to go to expensive breeders.
We just want to keep on the radar. People don't generally think of Auckland Council as a place to go and adopt dogs, although we do have a lot of followers on our Facebook page. But we just want more people to realise that this is a great way of bringing a new forever friend into your home.
After a similar event last year, the council received 120 adoption applications for the 25 dogs that were there. The council says it's confident the dogs at today's event will also be able to find somewhere to call home. For Checkpoint, Tom Furley.
20 seconds before the news at 6 o'clock. Lots and lots of feedback from people about petrol prices. $1.84 in Dunedin. That seems outrageous on the face of it. Caltex Sylvia Park in Auckland, $1.61, then 10 cents off with AA membership. A lot of people pointing out that if you shop in lower socioeconomic areas, it is cheaper. That's what people are saying. You are listening to Checkpoint with John Campbell on RNZ. Thank you for joining us. In the next half hour, we go back to Palmerston North for the latest on the abduction of a 5-year-old girl as she was walking to school. That beach campaign to save Awaroa. Will it hit $2 million? They're certainly very close. We'll go live to the man who's organising it. All of that and more coming up in the next 30 minutes. But first, here's the news with Katrina Batten.
Ngā mihi nui, good evening. The Mayor of Palmerston North says the kidnapping of a 5-year-old girl on her way to school this morning has shaken the whole community. The police are still hunting the man who dragged Shekina Relai's skipper away from her sisters and into a white car in Burns Avenue at about 8:30. The Mayor, Grant Smith, told Checkpoint the girl's sisters who raised the alarm and the passerby who found her unharmed a few blocks away should all be commended for their quick thinking.
But yes, very, very harrowing for the family, and I mean just that worst possible thing that could possibly have happened. So thank goodness that hasn't.
Grant Smith. The police say they have a few leads at this stage, except that the kidnapper was driving a white sedan. AFCO is launching what it calls a serious misconduct action against meat workers at the company's Rangiuru plant who took last Monday off work following Waitangi Day. Workers who took a Mondayised Waitangi holiday are being called to a meeting with management to discuss their actions. A letter sent to Checkpoint says workers may be in breach of their employment agreement and their absence could amount to an unlawful strike. AFCO has refused to discuss the letter's contents with RNZ. Meanwhile, some workers at AFCO's Wairoa plant say they're not confident they'll be allowed back to their old jobs and conditions. Despite an employment court ruling, they can return. The Meat Workers Union has been in dispute for months with the company, but the court says the 160 affected workers should be able to go back to their normal shifts. A group of workers told Checkpoint they're incredibly proud of the win, but one, Tina Edwards, says she's not confident the ruling will be honoured.
They're going to try and kick us around and we're going to be bullied. But yeah, bugger us around for a little while. That's my feelings. I'm hoping I'm so wrong.
Tina Edwards. In a statement issued this afternoon, AFCO says the ruling is subject to an application before the Court of Appeal. It maintains it has not locked out the workers, saying they've had opportunities to work at the plant since it opened this season. The Labour Party says a government agency is too embarrassed to admit a $3 million abattoir it's sending to the Saudi desert will be a gift for the Saudi government. The abattoir is part of a $13 million attempt by the government to appease a disgruntled Saudi businessman who it believed was blocking a free trade deal with the Gulf states. New Zealand Trade and Enterprise officials told MPs at a select committee this week that their role is simply to deliver the abattoir to the businessman and that its final ownership is not their concern. The Labour MP David Parker says government documents make clear the abattoir is to be gifted to the Saudi regime.
The reason that NZTE are pretending that they have no interest in who eventually owns the abattoir is because it's embarrassing for them to admit that the Saudi government ends up owning it.
The Labour MP David Parker. A Wellington-based iwi trust has failed to win approval to sell waterfront land at Shelley Bay. The Port Nicholson Block Settlement Trust needed 75% of iwi voters in favour of the proposal, but only got 51%. Te Manukorohi reporter Lee Marama McLaughlin has more.
The property firm Wellington Company made an offer of $11 million for the Shelley Bay land. The land makes up more than half of the trust's assets but returns just over 1% a year. The Trust Chairman, Neville Baker, says he's pleased with the number of people who understand the land needs to be sold to recover from financial difficulties. The Trust is currently being investigated by the Serious Fraud Office. Mr Baker says the timing of that investigation and the suppression orders in place have affected the vote. Ko li marama McLaughlin tēnei.
A man has died after being crushed by a vehicle ramp at the premises of a forklift company in Christchurch. St John Ambulance says it was called to Forklifts New Zealand in Hornby just before 4 o'clock this afternoon. It says an ambulance and rapid response vehicle responded to the accident, but the man died at the scene. The New Zealand cricketers have claimed a third Australian wicket just before stumps on day one of the first test in Wellington. Australia had consolidated after losing their two opening batsmen early in their first innings, and the tourists looked in control with the captain Steve Smith and informed batsman Usman Khawaja both making half-centuries. But the spin bowler Mark Craig, who was the pick of the Black Caps batsmen with 41 in their 183 all-out, has snared Smith, caught and bowled for 71. A short time ago, Australia were 142 for 3. Whether the New Zealand Breakers make the Australian basketball playoffs remains in the champions' own hands, heading into this evening's home clash with Melbourne United. It's the Breakers' penultimate regular season game, and they need to at least match the results of fifth-place Adelaide, who play Kirk Penny's Illawarra Hawks later tonight. Forward Mika Vukona says the team's not going to be glued to the TV set following their game in Auckland.
No, we'll just be focused on how we win in that game against Melbourne, because obviously we're going to try and win out the season. The better we do that, the better our chances are. So right now we'll have an eye on those results, but we're more worried about what we can do.
Tip-off is at after 7:30. World Golf number one Lydia Ko is within touch of the lead after the first round of the New Zealand Open. Ko fired a 3-under par 69 to be 3 shots off the pace set by Denmark's Nicole Larsen, who leads by 1 stroke. That's the news.
Tomorrow morning, the afterlife of pie, so to speak. Jan Martel is cheerfully unburdened by the Booker win. The Italian seismologist convicted of manslaughter when he and his colleagues were blamed for an earthquake death toll. And a major discovery in physics, which I don't quite understand yet, but Dr. David Wiltshire will explain. Join me, Kim Hill, tomorrow morning from 8 on RNZ National.
Met Service weather now to midnight tomorrow. For Northland, fine today, cloudy with showers tomorrow. Auckland's Coromandel Peninsula and Bay of Plenty, mainly fine but isolated evening rain. Mostly cloudy tomorrow with late showers in the east. Taupo, Taihape, Gisborne and Hawke's Bay, fine. Scattered afternoon, evening showers tomorrow, some heavy and thundery. In the west from Waikato to Wellington, including Wairarapa, generally fine. Marlborough, Nelson and Buller, fine apart from isolated afternoon or evening showers inland tomorrow. Fiordland, rain easing this evening, fine tomorrow apart from late drizzle. But the rest of the South Island, fine apart from areas of cloud morning and night, and a few morning showers about Canterbury and North Otago, retreating to the foothills in the afternoon. The Chatham Islands, cloudy with the odd shower tomorrow. It's 6:30.
Which means your working week is over, right, Katrina Bennett?
Yes, it is.
Have a wonderful weekend. And maybe a little drink to celebrate the end of this week, but let's go to Palmerston North, and very much the story of the day and of the program tonight. The 5-year-old girl who was snatched off the street as she walked to school with her sisters this morning. Manawatu Area Commander Inspector Sarah Stewart describes what happened.
Was pulled into a white vehicle by a male at approximately 8:30 a.m. today while she was walking to school on Shamrock Avenue with her sisters. We launched a number of area searches to locate her, and it included an aerial support. We received a phone call from a member of the public who advised us that Shekinah had been dropped off in the area and been found by another member of the public. We have not identified the male. At this stage, it's the white sedan and the male that we're looking for, and those two locations, they're really important. It would be really unusual for a 5-year-old child to be dropped off on the side of the road by themselves. Someone must have seen Shekinah being dropped off, and then they must call us. It's incredibly important.
That's Manawatu Area Commander Inspector Sarah Stewart at a media conference she held a couple of hours ago now. Joining us from Shamrock Avenue is our reporter there, Kate Gudsall. Kate, thank you for joining us. You were at that media conference, were you?
I was, yes. Yeah. And we're actually just on, it's actually on, sorry.
No, you go. Sorry, tell me where you are.
Yeah. We're actually on the spot, just where Shekinah was taken at about 8:30 this morning on Shamrock Street, and she was walking, as Sarah Stewart said, walking to school with her two sisters. She's on Brighton Crescent. It's about a 10-15 minute walk from here when she was taken, and she was actually dropped off 2.5 hours later at about 11 o'clock on the other side of town, about 7 kilometres from here on Hines Place, which is just down by the Manawatu River.
Her two sisters did a tremendous thing, didn't they? Because they shrieked and yelled and made a lot of noise and raised the alarm immediately.
Yes, they did. And actually, as Sarah Stewart said, that they were alerted by a member of the public who actually lives on the street. And I've spoken to that member of the public's mother. She and her son, who actually heard the screams and alerted the police, they didn't want to go on tape and talk to me, but they did say that he was very shaken up and that he's been speaking to the police today.
Okay, we're trying to get some understanding of what the police are saying about whether or not this man was known to the girls. Some suggestion that they may have seen him in a park previously. Was that mentioned at the police media conference, or has this been eliminated or simply not discussed?
It hasn't been discussed. The police wouldn't discuss anything that happened between the hours of sort of 8:30 and 11 a.m. or around the family. They basically gave us very just the straight facts, which is essentially that they said that the man is not known to the girl, that and that they basically have no leads on him at all and no description. And I think they've been talking to the girls today about, in order to get a description. So all they're really going on from what Sarah Stewart was saying this afternoon was basically a man driving a white sedan. They don't even know the name of the manufacturer of the car or anything like that. And I did actually speak to the girl's mother this afternoon, and she didn't want to be spoken to. But I think the investigation's basically ongoing, and Sarah Stewart said that the family had been very supportive of it.
And no discussion whatsoever about what is thought to have happened in that 2.5 hours that Shekinah simply disappeared without trace.
No, I specifically asked about that, and they said they didn't know, and they just didn't want to talk about that. They kept it to the very basic facts that they're pushing for the public to come forward with information on this. That they've got about more than 30 officers working on this. That they're scouring the CCTV footage from around this area and in Hine Place where she was dropped off, and they're basically saying that whoever was driving this car would have looked. They think he would have looked quite out of place around this area at this time at 8:30 this morning and on Hine Place, and that it would have been very unusual to see a man also drop a young girl off and then just go off. So they're really urging for the public's help on this.
Okay, can you just clarify? So Shekinah was picked up where you are and dropped off. So she was picked up on Shamrock Avenue, precisely where you're standing now, and she was dropped off.
She was picked up on Shamrock Street. That was actually, the police called it Shamrock Avenue, but it's Shamrock Street that we're standing on. So she was picked up on Shamrock Street at about 8:30 this morning, and at about 11 o'clock this morning, 2.5 hours later, she was dropped off on Hind Place, which is the other side of town down by the Manawatu River, about 6 or 7 k's from where I'm standing right now.
Thanks so much, Kate Gudsall. We really appreciate it. Kate Gudsall live from Palmerston North. Obviously, police are working very hard to identify who is behind this. Very difficult when you have little or no sort of witness testimony. A white sedan is being described. Those areas very important that Kate was talking about. If you saw anything, and obviously a white sedan is a very ordinary car, but if you just clock one or think you clocked one at those times this morning in those areas, please contact the Palmerston North Police. Kate spoke to residents and local parents at Brighton Crescent earlier.
And how are you feeling at the moment about it?
Still quite, shocked. Yeah, pretty shocked. And just, I don't know, nowadays I'll be mostly taking my daughter to school and making sure she gets in that gate, and just for safety.
So I think everyone's in a state of shock, and I've got kids that used to go to that school that's moved on to, nieces and nephews that have just gone to that school, they've moved on from there and gone to colleges, and
I found it pretty scary, unsafe for the kids that walk from far distance just to go to Takaro. Really, the parents should be with them walking themselves to school, there and back after school and before school.
And do you usually walk your kids to school?
I normally do sometimes, but then I meet them at the mailbox after school to see whether they're safe or not.
And would this make you rethink the way you take your kids to school or anything like that?
Yeah, now I do rethink just to walk into school after what I've seen.
It's Kate Gutzel talking to parents at the school Shakina and her sisters go to. It's 6:15. A crowdfunding campaign to buy a private Abel Tasman beach has nearly reached its $2 million target. Will that be enough? Well, we'll ask. Even bigger sums are at stake for the beach's current owner, who's being pursued by the Bank of New Zealand for close to $6 million in unpaid loans. The BNZ went to the High Court in Wellington trying to force the sale of mortgaged properties owned by Michael Spackman and his son-in-law and business partner, Mark Garnham, which include this beach at Awaroa. But the man spearheading the campaign to buy the beach is Dwayne Major, and he is with us now. Dwayne, for those of you listening on the radio, Dwayne is on Skype, and you're just smiling from ear to ear. So your target was $2 million. What are you sitting at, Dwayne?
I think we're sitting at 19963, so we are less than $4,000 away. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, well, we might just keep talking. We might just keep talking till you clock $2 million.
Could happen. Maybe some of your listeners could tick it over.
Okay, look, Dwayne, I can't remember, but when we first spoke to you, which was early last week, $2 million seemed an impossibly long way away. I think there was just a few thousand in the kitty then, wasn't there, when we first spoke?
Yeah, no, I think we might have spoke on the Monday, and things really took off from there on that Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll get out the graphs at the end of all this, but it went up right at that. We spoke right at the beginning, up, and then it went down, and then flat, and it spiked up again. So it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing.
It is amazing. The thing I love about the story most of all is not the total, but the number of donors you've had. What are they sitting at now? How many people have donated money?
34,000. Just under 33,500, and we've only got $2,500 to go now.
Wow, to $2 million. Of course, $2 million is something of an arbitrary figure, and I know Gareth Morgan's been pretty unsentimental of his assessment because of this, because who knows? This is a tender process. Who knows what this land is going to sell for?
Yes. There's a lot of people who think it realistically, had we not cut in, would have been sort of 1.5 to 2 mil. But, we have raised attention. We've actually done quite a good marketing job, but for everyone, not ourselves. So it is precarious. We knew that. But what was the choice? Do nothing. And so we've done something. And with 33,500 people, I'm just so grateful for those people. You guys have done something special. Win or lose, we have done something special. We've expressed a value some of us are struggling still to put words to. So thank you very, very much, those people, and those people that have actually been part of it. The media has actually been in the story, not just reporting on it. So I want to thank all of your fraternity for the role that you guys have played.
And Dwayne, what is the special thing? Setting aside whether or not you get the land, and of course, if you don't get the land, if the tender's not successful, then the people don't donate. The money is only required if it's actually going to achieve buying the land. So in the worst possible scenario, which is that someone with a lot of money comes in and bids $5 million or whatever, what has been the thing that you will be most proud of having achieved?
Realising that someone can do something, and when you do that and you stick your neck out on the line, that you can find yourself not alone, and the realisation that the people, can find that inner spunk, that mojo collectively to do something, and I suppose that feeling of empowerment around something you hold dear. And I'm still struggling to find the words, but it's got something to do with my identity as being a New Zealander. It really is, and it's some kind of connection to that land, and also my love for young people in New Zealand. There's something in there, and the various reporters are helping me articulate that. But it was a gut reaction at first, and it's so nice to know I'm not alone.
Yeah, well, it's the phrase tangata whenua, isn't it? I mean, Māori identify themselves as people of the land. I think this is a profound expression that, in a way, everyone, the 33,000 people have donated, obviously feel that way.
Yes, and for me, hey tangata, hey tangata, hey tangata. What is the most precious thing? It's the people, it's the people, it's the people. And we've just discovered something that, maybe that's been collecting dust since the telethon days. There's this altruistic burst of energy around something that we share that's rising above politics and media competition. And there's something very, very special here. And I don't know where it may lead. And yes, it's very precarious where we're going, but I'm truly thankful and I'm privileged to be a part of it.
You two boys were just sitting there talking crap. You were just talking crap, weren't you? And you were, weren't you? With all due respect to you, Dwayne, and you thought, let's see what we can achieve. Well, look what you've done. What's your target now?
Ironic. Right now, I'm just at my sister-in-law's place, and we're having fish and chips for tea, so I've just hucked away in the office. But this was the house that we had Christmas celebration, so it's gone full circle. And it was those guys out there told us, do something about it, you blokes. Enough talk. So it's actually quite amazing how it's come full circle. It's incredible. We've got a long way to go, but to not celebrate and just take this in and breathe would be a real shame. I think those people that have got it have expressed it, and it's good for the heart of our country, I think, and certainly my little soul.
Yeah. Dwayne, can you leave this line open for about 4 minutes? Go and have some fish and chips. And we'll
no, it's okay.
No, because I reckon you'll hit $2 million while we're still on air, because we've got 10 minutes. We're still on air, so we'll run a couple of stories.
We have $865 to go.
That's pretty exciting. Is Dwayne still on? I've lost you. Great, $865 to go. That's very exciting, Dwayne. Should we just? Do you want to open the door and call people in? All the people there? They're like, okay. Go and get them. We'll get them in. Yeah. While this is going on, the reason that this is such a lovely story is simply that this is an expression of connection with the land, I guess, and that's what Dwayne's talking about. Dwayne's now taking the Skype out into the living room of the house, where I think people are having fish and chips and may not actually. There they are. So they give me, and the fish and chips look magnificent. So if you're not watching this, it's a lovely family scene. Dwayne, where are you? You're in Christchurch. What suburb of Christchurch are you in?
We're in Aidenfield where my sister Debbie lives, and this is where we had our Christmas celebration and a bit of banter. I also see my batteries running dead too, so let's be careful.
Okay, Dwayne. So this is where it all started, the idea of saving Awaroa, and now you're a few $100 shy of $2 million. So congratulations to you and everyone there, and let's hope it's enough.
Thank you, and thank you the part that you guys have played too. You guys have been awesome.
Our pleasure. Thanks, Dwayne. Really nice to talk to you. That's Dwayne, who and the fish and chips. Oh, they look good, fish and chips, don't they? It's 6:21. Coming up on World Watch at 6:30 with John Greaves. North Korea's army is ordered to take over an industrial complex run jointly with South Korea. You'll remember, if you've been following the story, that of course South Korea pays wages to the people there, but have kind of withdrawn from the deal since North Korea went a bit AWOL with its rocket testing. Well, now North Korea is taking over it, and a former Nazi is on trial in Germany accused of assisting in the murders of 170,000 people. Well, talking about people making a difference, which is what Dwayne's been doing, here's another one. Ravi Das is a Wellington optometrist who specialises in working with children. Ravi runs an online store called Mr. Four Eyes, where he sells glasses and offers lens replacements, which he makes himself from his garage. But with every pair of glasses he sells from his website, one pair goes to a charity he set up called the Four Eyes Foundation, which works with schools and families to help identify children with vision problems, because kids with vision problems don't necessarily know they've got vision problems, don't talk about it, and fall through the educational cracks. He recently went to one Wellington school where he found 19 of 57 children he tested had problems with their sight. He spoke to us via Skype video.
And we screened year fives just before they went into intermediate, and we found that 1 in 3 of them needed further testing by an optometrist, and we found that of that 20 or so children that needed it, only about 8 of them actually got tested by an optometrist. So there was already a massive drop-off there.
And is that because Mum and Dad can't afford it, or is there something else going on there?
That's one of the factors. I mean, that school we worked with, they're fantastic. The teachers, the principals are really hands-on, and they put in a lot of effort to try and get these children tested. I mean,
of the children you saw who really needed further examination or glasses, how many of them would have had issues with their reading and their ability to do classwork as a result of their eyesight issues?
Right. There have been studies out there that have come up with about 30% of the children tend to have some sort of reading learning difficulty, and it's quite a hard thing to diagnose in some children because it's not really a reference point. It's to work from.
So your response to this is to set up the Four Eyes Foundation, which does what?
So our Four Eyes Foundation is, initially we started off as the Mr. Four Eyes brand, which was a social enterprise. And the social enterprise worked as a buy one, give one model. So for every pair of glasses we sold through the business, we donated a pair to a child in New Zealand. And as of recently, we've separated it out. So now we've got a charity that's pretty much set up called the Four Eyes Foundation. And that works in the same concept. So we have about a couple of hundred pairs of glasses sitting there to subsidise, to give to kids who need them. And we're working with a few charities who deal with kids, in particular in poverty, to try and access these kids and get them the glasses who need them. In fact, we worked with a charity to get into the school to do that screening last year, to do a pilot.
In the same way people are trying to give children shoes or lunches or whatever, you're now trying to give children glasses.
Yes, pretty much. That's our model.
And what sort of response have you had?
Really positive, actually. I mean, that's the heart of our business. That's what drives me, drives Steph to succeed as a business and where we want to go in the long term. And, there's a big drive, and it's been really interesting seeing customers coming in and buying glasses and knowing that they're contributing to that social cause. And it's a really, really good feeling. It's just nice to know that we can give back. And
Rami, what about the children themselves? Have you put glasses on a child and seen them react with wonder or delight? Have you had that experience?
Yes, I have. I specialised in kids when I started optometry, when I graduated. So it was a common thing to see all the time. And but it's a really nice feeling to be able to give them that sight. There's that concept where if you give them, you can treat a disease later on in life, but if you give, if they miss out on the education, they can struggle throughout their life as a result of it. So, education is such a crucial part, and vision is such a crucial part of education too, or learning. Yeah. So it is a really nice feeling. Absolutely.
So that was Rami Das, but we've just got some screaming people on the phone from Christchurch. Dwayne, because we've come back to you on the phone because your computer died. I think your battery died. What are you screaming about?
We have just crossed the line, and I've been so focused on the end point of buying it, but I've just been quite caught up in this significant milestone. We have actually done something very, very special in New Zealand. Thank you so much. We're dreaming big, and we're pulling it off, aren't we? It's fantastic.
I think since you've been talking to us, the site's crashed. Dwayne?
Really?
Yeah.
Great. Let's keep crashing it. Let's keep going. We've still got a goal to achieve, but isn't this moment a special one?
Well, it is for you because, you had that dream at Christmas time and look, 34,000 people have thought, yep, we back those guys and we believe in what they're doing. That is pretty magic. Congratulations, Dwayne.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you for your part in it too.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Yeah, Dwayne. So they set the target, Dwayne Major, they set the target of $2 million. And they've got there. Will it be enough? Well, only time will tell in the tender process. Let's end with a lovely story. We haven't got long, so let's get into it. A Kiwi chick named Rockstar has been delivered to its new home in a chili bin after hatching in a car in Taranaki. Kevin Stokes from the Taranaki Kiwi Trust found the egg with the chick's beak poking out in a deserted nest. In a strange twist of fate, Kevin was also born in a car. You and the Kiwi, Kevin. Are you there, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm here.
What was it? So this little Kiwi's beak was sticking out of the egg, was it?
Yeah, it was actually a small crack in the egg, and you could actually just see the roundness on the end of its beak just sitting there. Yeah.
And the nest was deserted. Mum and Dad had just gone.
No, Dad actually was still there, but when we went in to monitor and do the egg lift, we had a desertion code come off his transmitter, so we thought he had actually gone, but we actually found he was still sitting there.
Good old Dad. And so how was the chick?
The chick, it was okay when we picked it up, still in the shell. So we thought, well, we've got time. So when I got back out of the bush, I contacted Kiwi Encounter just to let them know what was happening. But the bird was impatient, I'd say, a bit like me. And by the time I got out of the it was hatched.
But we've got a photo up. That must be really moving to have a Kiwi chick hatch in a chili bin in your car.
Yes, it sort of makes all the work as a volunteer really special. Makes it rewarding.
Yeah, can you describe it for those of people who are listening rather than watching? What do they look like when they're brand new?
They look actually quite ugly. A wet, motley-looking thing. But it doesn't take them long to actually dry themselves off and get quite fluffy.
Yeah, and so what happens to this little guy?
He'll stay at Rotorua at Kiwi Encounter for maybe up to 6 months till he's up to 1 kilo on weight. And then we'll bring him back, and we're not 100% sure, but he may go on to Mount Egmont, or we may be released somewhere else in Taranaki.
Yeah, you do great work, you volunteers. It must be really rewarding for this to happen, Kevin.
Oh, yeah, it makes all the effort as volunteers. You know, I'm saying there's hundreds of us around the country doing this work as volunteers, and this sort of thing makes it worthwhile and makes it really feel special.
Yeah, congratulations, Kevin. Well done, Kevin, who delivered a kiwi chick. Well, the kiwi chick delivered itself, really. In a car, in a chili bin in a car. Kevin himself was also born in a car on the way to the hospital in Waitara. So, kiwi chick saved, $2 million raised. What a lovely way to end the week. Thank you for listening, watching, whatever during the week. We will be back on Monday on behalf of our wonderful team in the control room who work so hard and do such a great job. Have a fantastic weekend.
You're listening to RNZ National, where it's 6:30. Welcome to Friday's World Watch PM. I'm John Greaves. Tonight, scores of people killed in a Mexican jail. A former SS guard at Auschwitz concentration camp goes on trial. And a 6-week standoff in Oregon comes to an end. Those stories and more in World Watch PM. But first, world powers have agreed to try to implement a ceasefire in Syria and to expand the delivery of humanitarian aid to people caught up in the conflict. The announcement comes after marathon talks in the German city of Munich that included the United States and Russia and more than a dozen other countries. Anne Barker reports.
It looks and sounds momentous, but those who've signed the communiqué in Munich know the talk may not translate into reality.
What we have here are words on paper. What we need to see in the next few days are actions on the ground in the field.
US Secretary of State John Kerry at a midnight press conference said there was unanimous support for a ceasefire in Syria and the provision of humanitarian aid.
We have agreed to implement a nationwide cessation of hostilities to begin in a target of 1 week's time. That's ambitious, but everybody is determined to move as rapidly as possible to try to achieve this. This will apply to any and all parties in Syria, with the exception of the terrorist organizations Daesh and al-Nusra.
The delivery of desperately needed humanitarian aid will begin immediately. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov agreed the task of achieving a ceasefire will be difficult.
I want to repeat, I fully agree with John that the real test of strength, it will be how we will fulfill what we have agreed upon in full volume and not just in those components which are convenient to just one group or out of the participants of the support group of Syria.
Crucially, of course, Syria wasn't part of the talks in Munich, and it's impossible to believe Bashar al-Assad's regime will in any way respect the ceasefire, especially as Syrian forces backed by Russian airstrikes continue over Aleppo. And even if Syria did agree, the situation on the ground is likely to deteriorate even further before the ceasefire would take effect. The United Nations Special Envoy on Syria, Staffan de Mistura, says the Syrian people have the most basic needs.
The first one was, please don't have another conference as the others, and don't have just a conference about talking about talks, but please give us two things. One is humanitarian access. We are human beings. We deserve to get food, water, access to medical facilities. And second, we need no more bombs, no more war.
The outcome in Munich coincides with separate talks in Brussels that will likely see an acceleration in airstrikes against Islamic State. 60 nations have been meeting at NATO headquarters to discuss a US plan to ramp up the military campaign. The US predicts at least 24 countries will agree to the plan. Crucially, Saudi Arabia, a key US ally, has agreed to increase its military contributions and expand its role in the air campaign. US Defence Secretary Ash Carter welcomed the news after talks with the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
Saudi Arabia's defence minister, for example,
indicated that the kingdom is reinvigorating its commitment to the coalition air campaign, which is very welcome news, and contributing in other critical ways on the ground.
But that's prompted an angry response from Russia, which has warned of perpetual war if Saudi Arabia launches a ground offensive in Syria. Saudi Arabia supports rebel groups in Syria, while Russia is backing the Syrian government. The Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev has told a German newspaper an escalation in the conflict could unleash a new world war. Russia has also blamed American forces for bombing 2 hospitals in Aleppo. The war of words only underscores the difficulty of Russia, the US and other nations of brokering any kind of peace in Syria.
The ABC's Middle East correspondent, Ann Barker. 49 people are being killed in Mexico after rival gangs clashed in a prison in the north of the country. The riot happened at Topo Chico Penitentiary near the city of Monterrey. Katie Watson has the full story from Mexico City.
As